TV is starting to get me in a little bit of trouble, you guys. Like, we were watching something the other day, and the guy in the show turns to the girl and he says, well, I don't know if you know this, but all men want threesomes. I was like, what the hell? All men want threesomes? Why would a Property Brother say that? Why would that ever come up? All men want threesomes? I'm sitting here watching this with my wife, and I just feel her head turn. What? She goes, huh? Do you? I'll tell you what, I thought faster than I've ever thought in my entire life. That's exactly what I said to her right there when she goes, do you want a threesome? I go, if I could have two of you? Right? She pitched that up, I was like, get that out of here. In that moment, I was so proud of myself, you guys. And then in the next moment, I remembered, she's a twin.
Welcome, everyone, to the Rosie and Bill Show. Our guest this week has appeared in commercials for Miller Lite, Pepsi, and Amazon. You can hear him on Sirius XM radio, and you can see him performing in comedy clubs all across the country. Please welcome to the show the pride of Hastings, Nebraska, Nick Hoff. Hey, Nick, welcome, sir.
Oh, pride. You're taking some liberties with that word there. I'm not sure if they are proud, but that's where I'm from.
Yeah, I'm sure they're proud, Nick. And if they're not, by the time this conversation's over, I'm sure they will be for sure. But I know they were
shifted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Nick, I have to tell you that's actually where I'd like to start. I mean, I've got a lot of ground I'm looking forward to covering with you. Appreciate you taking the time here with me tonight. And I thought we'd start with Hastings. So what was it like growing up there, and what are some of your favorite memories?
It's a great place to grow up. I would still live there if they had more comedy. It's unfortunately a small town, and so there are no comedy clubs. I've performed there a handful of times, but loved my life growing up. But I think I haven't met anybody that grew up in the 80s that didn't love it. So maybe it was just a time era rather than the place. But it was just the perfect algorithm of, freedom, small town, just 5 years old, get on my bike and go. Wow. I don't even think I said goodbye to my parents. I think I just was out on the town. I would come home for meals, or if I heard my dad whistle on the back porch.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we also appreciate our first and longest running sponsor of the show, Tom and his team of insurance professionals at the Malin Agency. If world-class customer service and doing business with someone you can trust is important to you, give Tom and his team a call today for all your insurance needs. That was the day, like you said, you'd be out till it was dark, right? Or till you got hungry?
Yeah. Yeah. And there were no cell phones. There's no checking in. It's just, if the kid didn't come home, then you started to think, what's going on? But we always came home, and it was a blast. It was a blast. Small town, and it's the birthplace of Kool-Aid. Ooh. So you're welcome. And yeah, I loved growing up there. I still go back and visit, take my kids back. Still have family there, so they get to experience that life a little bit. Just go out, because it still kind of feels that way. Although, I don't know, we're a little in tune with where are our kids right now. Like, I worry. Worry about my kids going out. Like, we give them the freedom, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, they're probably dead. They're gone.
Yeah, it's definitely, I can totally understand it. I mean, my twins are older now, but when they were younger, definitely know what you're talking about and can understand it. And it's funny. One thing I remember reading and hearing about Nebraska is I'm Scandinavian, and apparently I think Nebraska has about the highest percentage of Scandinavians. I think Nebraska and Minnesota.
Is that just a way of saying white? Just just as white as it can possibly be.
Yes.
As I'm staring at my pasty, although I'm slightly sunburned. I played basketball outside today, so.
Well, there's one other quick story I wanted to share with you, Nick, and that is, I think it was 2006. I was looking at this. They had these 40-acre plots of land for sale in Casper, Wyoming. And growing up in and around Philadelphia, it just blew me away. The mountains, the vastness, I didn't even understand what 40 acres was.
Right.
And I'll never forget the realtor. He was a slick talking guy, big cowboy hat. And I said, listen, I got a concern. Like, what about the snow? In the winter, it's got to be pretty heavy here, isn't it? He said, oh, no, partner. snow passes right by here and goes right into Nebraska. So is that
Ah,
true?
I gotta imagine Casper gets snowfall.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to sell you a bill of goods. Were you looking to move there or like just an
No,
investment?
at the time, like there wasn't even anything. They had white PVC poles marking like the four corners of your 40-acre
Sure.
plot. And I think it was 2006. It was like 9.99 an acre. I just wanted to buy 40 acre. I thought about it,
Yeah.
but it was nowhere near being developed, no electricity or anything yet. But it just, and now looking back, I'm pretty sure it would have been a good investment had I done it.
It could have been. Could they farm on it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Bill Gates is buying it all.
Oh,
So you could have owned a little bit of property away from him.
yeah. And the other thing I think they said was like free range or whatever. So there were all kinds of animals and stuff just kind of wandering around, and they had the rights to be there too, which was pretty interesting. But that aside, again, it was just beautiful country, very nice people, which when you're used to being all packed on top of each other, that just kind of
Right,
was
right.
a pleasant distraction, if you will.
Get out there,
So
let your eyes stretch. But that guy's a liar.
yeah,
It snows in Casper.
yeah. Thanks. Maybe that's probably why I kind of saw through it. That's why I didn't make that
Yeah.
investment. But
Don't
anyway,
trust the big, fast talking cowboy hat guy.
yeah, he did look good though. I'll say that. And he had some good music playing. I'm a big country music fan.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Nick, when did you discover that you had a knack for making people laugh?
It was pretty young. I think I can pinpoint the moment that I fell in love with making people laugh.
Hmm.
And it was in the elementary school cafeteria, and we're at lunch. And I did Family Matters was a big show on
Oh
TV right
yeah.
then, and Steve Urkel, and so I said something as Steve Urkel, and I didn't even know what an impression was. I was just trying to be as close to him as I could be, and I made people laugh at the table, and I think something went off in my brain right at that moment. It was like, that was fun. Let's do that more.
Yeah.
And so then it was, repeating lines from that show or impersonating my boy Jim Carrey right here,
Mm.
And so I think that was the moment where I realized I enjoy making people laugh. I want to do that as much as possible.
Wow. So that's kind of when you got the bug a little bit initially that young, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, but I didn't know stand-up comedy really
Right.
existed. And so it wasn't till it was still pretty early. I think it was I was in junior high and I was watching the show Seinfeld
Hmm.
and I love that show, but then like I had a realization, oh, his job is a stand-up comedian. That I didn't even know that was a job. Like I'd heard
Okay.
Bill
Yeah.
Cosby albums, things like that, but I those guys were just being funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing that professionally, but then the show and I was like, "Wait, what does he do? He's a comedian?" Ah. And right then I was my friend my best friend at that time was Jeff Moores. He was big into writing down his goals. He had heard somewhere that if you write down a goal, you're
Hmm.
like 90% more likely to obtain it.
Yeah.
And so I wrote in the fanciest lettering I could, which was bubble letters at that time. I wrote, "I'm going to be a stand-up comedian," and I tacked it up. I had this cork board on one of my
Wow.
walls, and I tacked it up there, and I started just tacking up pictures of people I thought were funny next to it. So over the next several years, going through junior high and high school, I had that I'd see every single day. I'm going to be a stand-up comedian and attached to all these funny people. And so I think just walking past that and just seeing that
Wow.
not only prepared me to do it, but I think it prepared my parents for the fact that I was going to squander that business degree that I would once get.
Well, I was curious about that. Like, so you're doing this and that's constant reinforcement, walking by there
Mm-hmm.
every day in junior high and high school. When you were in high school and looking at college or other opportunities, was there anything else you were considering doing at that point?
No, I kind of always knew that my parents wanted me to go to college, and I wanted that experience as well. So I decided, but I ended up going to Indiana University, and I
Okay.
think the reason I went there was because a buddy that I graduated with, his older sister went there, and when she came back one summer, she goes, "It's really interesting. They have a stand-up comedy class at Indiana
Ah,
University," and I think that went in the old file. And then 4 years later, when I was applying, I don't know what I saw Indiana University and I was like, I'm going to apply there. And I ended up applying three places, but I only got into Indiana. So they had the lowest standards. Sorry, IU.
So, but was your major business then?
Yes. Yeah. I have a business degree.
Okay. But
Everything's
and how was that
business.
class? Was it what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, everything was, it made sense. The business world makes sense. It's numbers, it's persuasion. I went for a marketing emphasis, so it kind of felt similar to what stand up is. You're trying to sell somebody a joke, from the stage, and you have very limited time to get them from A to B and then get some
Yeah.
reaction, rather than making, a dollar sale, you're making the sale of the punchline like this. You bought in, you get it, and it worked. So I kind of felt like everything's business, and they had a good business school there. So I was like, I'll do that, and I'll have a good foundation, and then I'll go do stand up.
Was there a particular moment or event that maybe happened either while you were in college or after you graduated when you decided to take the leap?
I always knew I was going to. I think I always knew that after graduation, I was either going to New York or Los Angeles to pursue stand up.
Hmm.
And I had been writing that whole time. I even started writing, I think, in early high school, just writing jokes, but I think they were just kind of blatant Seinfeld ripoff. Like I'm sure my voice would go up high when I'd say, and then I failed the test, whatever. But I had been writing, and so I knew that I was after graduation. I just decided Los Angeles had better weather than New York, and so I moved out there. And I it took me a few months of kind of because I think I had held it so precious for all those years. I think
Hmm.
maybe if you didn't know that you were going to do it, maybe you jump into it sooner. But it took about 6 months from me moving out here to actually getting the confidence to get on stage. I would just go to the Comedy Store and sit in the back and just kind of watch people sign up and go to the open mic night, and I just kind of sit back there and watch. And I moved out here June 1st of 2005, and I didn't get on stage until November 2005 because I was just sitting there like waiting for the right moment.
What changed? So it's about 5 months you're sitting there. What was it just, okay, I've had enough or anything in particular give you the courage to go up and finally, take that stage?
So what it was I was sitting there, and for about 3, 4 months of just not signing up, seeing the sign up list right there, sign up for open mic night, and just walking past it and sitting in the back and watching. Because I was just scared to fail. I think I was
Hmm.
afraid that if it didn't work, then now what? What is my dream? And so it took, 3, 4 months, and the apartment that I had, I found a roommate on roommates.com. Just hopefully someone that doesn't murder me in my sleep. And and we got mail, and I never checked the mail. I never checked the mail. And our electricity went out 3 times because the electrical bill was in my name, and I just never checked the mail. And it would just get shut off. I'd be like, oh. And I'd go down to the mailbox. It's just jammed full with like these different colored envelopes from the electrical company. Like, hey, you haven't paid in several months. Oh, okay. But I checked the mail one day, maybe because the electricity was off. And there was a brochure in there for the West Los Angeles Extension College. And I just kind of like, how you just get something and go, what is this? And you thumb through it, and my finger landed on stand up comedy class. And I looked at that, and it was like $59. And it said at the end, the final exam is to perform. I said,
Oh.
oh, this will force me to do it. And so I barely had $63, but I paid the 59 to take the class. And I went there, and it was the best thing because I met all these other people that wanted to do stand up. And so I did stand up before that final performance because I met these other people that are writing and want to do it.
Hmm.
And so we started going to open mics together, and it felt safe as a crew to
Okay.
go. We're going to drive down to Long Beach, and the four of us are going to go up and bomb for 5 minutes. And so we did it. And so, yeah, I had that dream, but it took the spurring of something like on the calendar, you will have to do it at this time.
Wow.
And it got me into it. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. And so I think if you look back then, so you take the class that kind of forces your hand to get involved. Where did things go from there?
Yeah. So, well, you start doing shows, and most of them in the beginning are terrible. Most of not just you, but the show itself is terrible. Like,
Hmm.
oh, there are 3 people here. and they're eating and they didn't know comedy was happening in this restaurant, but yet here you are. Yeah, I did one early on at the Otis College of Art and Design in their cafeteria, and it was me, the guy that was running the show, and another comedian. The other comedian went up first, and then he got off stage and left. And then the guy brought me up and went outside and took a phone call, and there was nobody in there. I'm
Oh
in
my
there
God.
alone with a microphone. Like every once in a while, a kid would walk by with a backpack, and I'd try and like pitch them a joke idea.
Oh my
But I
God.
mean, early on, you don't realize how much it sucks. You're just happy to be up there doing it. So, uh, you're doing those shows, and then as you get a little bit better, the shows get a little bit better because now you get asked to do other shows. And it's just kind of this slow rise, with water just filling up very slowly, and you're just clinging to a buoy of your like three little wiener jokes or whatever, and you're just trying to stay afloat. And the shows keep getting better and better, and all of a sudden now you're doing a small road gig where they're going to let you do 15 minutes instead of the normal 5 to 8, and you go,
Mm.
okay, how do I fill 15 minutes? I don't have 15 minutes, but you got 12, and you're going to pause, and you're going to do a who's from out of town, and we'll try. And the incremental increase, I think, is the hardest thing for people to understand. Of in the beginning, you do 3 to 5 minutes, and that feels like forever, and then all of a sudden you get bumped up to 7 minutes, and you're like, 2 extra minutes? What am I going to say to these people for 2 extra minutes? Now, an hour is easy. Now, an
Wow.
hour doesn't phase me, you know? But those little incremental change. I remember one of the first times I was offered to headline, and I only had 30 minutes, but they wanted me to do 45. And I wrote the guy, I said, honestly, I'm flattered, but I think let's try co-headlining. Let me bring in another
Ah.
guy that's at my level, and we'll both do 35 minutes, and we'll do that rather than have me sit there and flail. And so, yeah, it's just these small little incremental steps. For some people, it happens really fast. Some people
Yeah.
get on TV and boom, they're catapulted. I remember I did, I toured with Jeff Foxworthy a little bit, and he was
Mhm.
on the Tonight Show within 5 years. 5 years? You're on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carter, like the biggest show ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so some people it happens faster. Some people, it's a long drawn out process. I don't think Rodney Dangerfield succeeded really until his 50s.
Yeah, I've heard that, and even and back then, getting on those late shows in 5 years, it was even more, I think, prestigious to get on, Carson or
Yeah.
Leno, because there's more of them now. It's a little more diluted, in terms of the number of the late shows. But I mean, it's
Right.
still a great accomplishment. But 5 years, and Nick, I have to tell you, as you're sharing that, I have to say, a few months ago, I really wouldn't have been able to fully comprehend what you were talking about as far as 5 minutes versus 10 or, 30
Hmm.
to 45. But after taking a stand-up comedy class, and then having the opportunity to do a 5 minute set and writing
Right.
6 weeks to get 5 minutes of hopefully funny stuff. Oh my God. Like if I had to go to, like if somebody said, hey, we need 3 more minutes, Q&A
I'll hold
session.
my breath for two of it.
Yeah, it is just unbelievable how much goes into it and how many iterations and changes. And I had so much fun. I'm taking the class again. I tell people like
Hmm.
I got held back. I got to do it again. But and now I'm trying to do 5 more minutes, which means hopefully maybe I'll have 10. But
Yeah.
it's the writing and I've learned so much, and I'm curious with your writing, and you said you had started writing early on. What does your process look like from a writing standpoint?
It's pretty much been the same since I started doing it out in Los Angeles. So I always carry a little black book with me,
Hmm.
and because it fits easily in your pocket, so you can take it wherever. And I always have this on me, and an idea strikes, 3, 4 times a day or whatever it happens to be, and I write down that idea in here, and then a couple of times a week, I will sit down and take these ideas, put them into a bigger notebook, and flush them out.
Uh,
So a little one line idea will become, 1 or 2, 3 pages of, let's see what in that world of that joke, I could possibly hit on. And then when I pick 3 to 5 line items from that, and I'll go try it. I've got a couple shows in Los Angeles I like to do on like a weekly basis or monthly basis, and I'll go and I'll try them, see is there any resonance there? Because sometimes I have an idea and I'll say it out loud to an audience and they just look at me like I just spoke a different language. Like there's no, like absolutely they zero effect on them. They just don't, what are you even talking about right now? And you go, and you look at that and you go, okay, so that was just a weird thought I had. And you say, maybe if I frame it a different way, will it work? Or is this just not worth it at all? And you cast it aside or you play with it and try it again. After the third time, if it's not hitting, it gets cast aside. But if there's a spark, even if it's not a laugh,
Okay.
if there's a spark of recognition of, yeah, yeah, yeah. And even if the punchline falls, at least if I can see in an audience's eyes that there's like the idea has merit, I will pursue it and I will continue to try and figure it out. Because all stand up is like if you've ever told a story where the end of it, just kind of falls flat and you go, well, I guess you had to be there. Stand up comedy is just getting the audience there. Setting the stage so that the thing you're about to say works. Because you're all over the map. You go to see a comedian at night, he's going to talk about his kids, he's going to talk about the government, he's going to talk about airplanes, whatever he's going to talk about.
Right.
You weren't thinking those things when you got there, but now he's taking you on that ride. He's got to put you in that scenario. He's got to paint the picture. And so now hopefully he's got you there so that the punchline actually lands. And that's the job of a comedian, is to figure out the shortest distance to get everybody down that funnel so they're all sitting there in that room so that the joke makes sense.
Now, along those lines, Nick, does it vary? Like, do you have to have different versions of things depending on maybe where you're performing and what part of the country, whether you're in East, West, North, South? Are there any variations that you think are needed in today's world?
A little bit. To me, the location doesn't matter as much as the demographic of age.
Oh, okay.
To me, when I look out, an early show, be a little older audience, and you say, okay, maybe I can't push it so much with this crowd. So it's not so much whether it's on the East Coast, West Coast. To me, I don't think so, because I don't do a lot of heavy, political stuff. So there are certain things that I wouldn't say out here that maybe I could get away with in the Midwest.
Okay.
But if that's the case, then I don't like that joke. Or not that I don't like that joke, but I don't like that delivery mechanism if it doesn't work in one place, but it would in another. I think figure out a different way to get it home, because if the idea has merit and it is funny, then figure out the way to present it to the audience so that everybody can tolerate it.
No, absolutely, because funny should be funny, no matter where you are.
Yeah, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe you need to go hyper specific. These guys that are very controversial, and maybe they'll walk 90% of the audience, but that 10% that stayed, they love them. They're fierce, and those guys are fans for life. Maybe I'm screwing it up by trying to make everybody laugh. Maybe I need to turn some people away.
No, well, I'll tell you what. I will say this: your most recent special, America, the Final Season.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've watched it I've watched bits and pieces, but the entire special I've actually just sat through multiple times because it's that good. And folks,
amazing.
if you haven't seen it yet, you got to check it out. It's on YouTube. It is amazing. And that's why I was so excited about having Nick here with me now, because if it's the final season, we had to get this done sooner rather than later.
It's almost over, my friend. Yeah. The world is ending. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say any more about that because you have to watch the special and you'll see what we're talking about. But if you take what we were discussing just a few moments ago in terms of the writing and the building and that incremental building and things, what kind of effort does it take to put together an amazing special like that? Like, what all goes into that?
Well, I think, and I won't die on this hill, but I'm pretty confident that it takes 3 years to develop an hour. It's my opinion, is it takes 3 years. And some guys have done it faster, but in my estimation, it's always not quite hit the mark from when they took a little bit more time. That's why you see certain guys that come out and their first special is just killer. It's because it was the gathering of the first 10 years of their career all pushed into this hour, and you go, whoa, this guy's incredible. And then, a year or two later, they come out with another special and you go, that was good. It was good. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, because you got paid so much money to just crap it out. And you go, well, had you spent a little more time, and I just think it takes 3 years. So yeah, it's about thousands of jokes, some that make the hour, some that don't. And some of it's timeliness. Some jokes,
Ooh,
are
yeah.
really like I have a joke that's really good right now about the California wildfires, but what's the shelf life?
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
another 6 months, maybe. That's pushing it a little bit, before it leaves the zeitgeist. So I know that joke won't even make the next hour. It's
Hmm.
just something that's fun right now, and people can, you know, people at live shows respect that, and they enjoy that because it does feel of the moment. But I know it's sort of futile to continue to work on that joke because it's not, when I record in another 18 months or whatever it is, it's not going to be there. And if it is, then I've screwed up somewhere along the
Yeah.
line. Um, so it's about getting the hour ready. And if I were smarter about it, I would plan it. I would plan the filming of it about 9 months. Well, you start planning it when you think the hour's ready.
Okay.
And then it's too late. Then it's too late. I've screwed this up every time where I record and it's like I should have recorded 6 months earlier. You know what I mean? Because the stuff was ready, you were ready to go, and now you've performed it for an additional 6 months, and you're not as excited about it.
Hmm.
I mean, the good thing is it's well honed and you know it inside and out, and you can like, flip something on a dime if you need to. But 6 months ago it was ready and I was pumped. Now it's ready and I like it, but it's like the Eagles up there churning out Hotel California
Yeah.
again. You think they're stoked to ram that down your throat for a 1700th time? Or are they like, I would rather play the new stuff, but nobody wants to hear
Yeah.
the new stuff.
I wish I could remember who it was, but it's been within the last couple of years. And they said that, and it goes back to what you were just saying, they had their whole life to prepare for their first special. And
Hmm.
then they were being told they had to crank one out every year. There is no way it's going to be as good. And it's just
Yeah,
like musicians, like the Eagles, a lot of those bands back in the 70s and 80s, they weren't cranking out albums every 6 to 12 months. And if they
right.
tried to, it wasn't going to be that good to be an album of throwaway songs.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. It does take a lot of time to get there. And then on top of that, you want to capture it in its best form. And so you try and think, okay, where will this,
Mm.
what clubs have I done? What theater will be great? What's a great comedy town where it doesn't really, the audience is going to be dialed in. Because there's some towns where the audience is just kind of notoriously garbage, and you go, ugh, this is a sleepy town or whatever. And then there's just hot towns. Like most of the towns up north are hot towns, like Minneapolis. A lot of specials. If you look on Netflix, I'll bet you 25% of the specials are filmed in Minneapolis or
Wow.
Chicago just because I don't know, something about that cold weather that
Yeah.
people are like holding in that much energy or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And it's just great crowds up there. I've never had a bad show in Wisconsin. I've never had a bad show in Minnesota. So it's like finding the right place and then you've got to capture it. So and at a certain point it's out of your hand. At a certain point you hire the DP and the camera crew and that
Hmm.
you kind of I like to oversee what was happening and like have my input. Oh, this camera here and what do we got here and let's get this kind of a shot. But then at a certain point, the lights go dark and it's just showtime and you just have to do the job and hope everything else, captures it the way that you hope it does because you want it to feel alive. That's what I want my specials to feel like when
Yeah.
you're watching it on YouTube or something like that. I want you to feel like you're actually there in the audience, not just like a fly on the wall just watching something happen because I've seen those specials where it feels dead. Like that, even if the jokes are good and the audience is popping, you feel this veil down in between you and the show. Yeah, it's like watching a music concert on TV. It's not the
Oh
same as seeing
yeah.
it live. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No,
you know?
that's a great comparison and analogy. It definitely is. And I will say that in any of your specials, any of your clips that I've watched, you definitely feel as though you're there and being pulled in. Definitely have that part down. In addition to being
Oh, good.
incredibly funny, it definitely pulls you in. And what I'd like to do now, Nick, if we could, is if we were to take a look back, it's about 20 years now you're into this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Ugh.
So
Here, let's retake that. I've only been doing it for like 2 months.
yeah,
Let's let's impress people.
well,
People ask me now, how long have you been doing this? I used to be excited. Oh, well, only 3 years. And they go, wow, you're good for 3 years. But now it's like 20. They're like, oh.
no, that means you are a veteran and you're getting better with time. It's all good. It's all in how you look at it. It's all in how you look at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
But the reason I brought up the time frame was you've accomplished a lot, you've done a lot in those years. If you were to look back, what would you say are some of your favorite memories thus far?
That's a good question. Um, I mean, those early years where you're with your friend. Now comedy's kind of, you're like a lone wolf. Like unless you have an opener that you go with a lot, you're kind of out there. Like this weekend, I'm going to, I'll fly to the south and then to the east, and I'll be going alone. And I'll be in my hotel room alone. And, when I go on stage, I'll meet the other comics there, but then I'll go on stage, I'm alone up there. And then when I get back to my hotel room after the show, you'll be alone. So those early days when you were sharing hotel rooms with the other comedians, or, saving money on gas by carpooling to get to the gig, those were great times. Those early, even though you were getting paid in drink tickets, that those were really fun times early on. Um, Now I love creating fans. Like people discover me for the first time, or they come back and see another show because they want to see what's new this year.
Yeah.
And I love seeing those people out and discussing things and seeing kind of some of the same faces. Those are some highlights now of seeing the ball continue to get pushed up the hill, because you comedians, we become addicted to that instant gratification
Hmm.
from, I'm going to tell a joke, I know immediately if it worked or not based on the laughter. There's instant gratification there that all of a sudden, then if you do a TV show or a movie or something, you don't get that because, it's going to be edited and then it'll go and people watch it inside their house. You'll never know if they laughed
Right.
unless but that stand up, we get addicted to that. Like, is endorphin the right word, or what's the,
Yeah, it's releasing the endorphins of that high that you
something's
get when you get that laugh. Sure.
something's coming in that you are registering and you get addicted to. And so it's like, but you don't see that in the overall picture. It's a slow boil, like I was saying, like holding the raft as you're slowly floating up. You don't necessarily take stock of, wow, 3 years ago I was doing this, now I'm doing this and the room is more full, or I'm getting paid more, or whatever it is. You don't really notice those markers as
Yeah.
much. And so it's nice to kind of sometimes take a step back and look, and you go, oh wow, this is great. This club that I had tried to get into for years, all of a sudden now they're having me there. Or I was able to sell tickets over here. So those are fun times now. Um Trying to think if there's anything else that stuck out. You know what was really fun? Was I got to do a theater in the round, and I had never done that before. And that was really cool to have everybody 360
Yeah.
around you. And so that was kind of a like, I don't know that I'd always want it to be that way, but that was a cool, new, interesting thing. So anytime something new like that comes up where you go, oh, this is a new experience. Yeah, I like that. You're not just going to, Tempe, Arizona for the 17th time.
Yeah. And I think you just, as I'm listening to what you're saying, I think it's about perspective. And I think that's like anything, while you're kind of in it, in the midst of it, you don't even necessarily realize or grasp that incremental movement, that if you were to
Hmm.
look back at where you are versus where you were, you are, and you said, pushing that ball, you're moving it uphill. You're still winning as long as you keep moving it and keep growing. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I think it was Bill Burr who said, somebody was upset that they had they had not gotten apart or something, and he goes, it might be over, and he goes, well, it is only if you let it though.
Yeah.
Like you're only down if you stay down. Like keep going. Like so many of my friends, some guys that I thought were funnier than me that quit comedy because they just weren't seeing the quick enough progression or whatever. And some of the guys that are doing comedy that I started with, have gone out ahead of me, and a lot of them have quit behind me. So but then I've caught certain guys, and certain guys have caught me. So, but as long as you're still in it, that's why I think there's a camaraderie. Like I bet you see it at Soul Joel's with
Yeah.
the stand-ups that come through, and all of a sudden, oh hey, I haven't seen you in 3 years, but we're
Yep.
still out here, we're still banging our way, out in the club circuit or whatever it happens to be. There's a certain little level of respect for people that have done it a long time and just stayed with it, like
No, there,
despite the fact that some people are way up here and some people are way down here, it doesn't matter.
no, I have had a chance to see it, Nick. I will tell you because there's many comedians I've had the opportunity to speak with and meet personally there at Soul Joel's in
Yeah.
Pottstown, and been blown away by how genuine, how in some cases I've kind of been. I used the expression with someone recently. I said I've kind of been let into the club a little bit with some of the conversations, and I just have
Yeah.
such an appreciation for the talent, the work, everything that goes into it. And you just said a few minutes ago, there's some people who I look at and they're literally funny from start to finish. There's not a lull, there's not a
Yep.
throwaway. And it's a lot like music. There's a lot of singers and musicians that I thought were the best on the planet, but yet some TikTok sensation comes along and displaces them, or they never really
Right.
had the big break, but yet they can sing circles
Hmm.
around so many of the other people. So you never know how that's going to go. But as long as you're staying in it, I think, you still got a chance for things to happen, and it ain't over till you say it is. So that's how I look at it, number one. And number two, as you were talking about some of those things a few minutes ago, and I know you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a comedian, you're traveling, you're talking about going these places alone. Is it difficult kind of balancing all those hats that you wear?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I constantly think about. I don't know that I struggle with it, but I think about it a lot, and whether or not, my kids when they were really little, it was not so hard because I don't even know that they noticed I was gone.
Hmm.
But and when they were, before school age, I'd be there during the week, so I'd play with them all day, and then I'd leave on the weekend. It's felt similar to a normal dad going to a 9 to 5. Now they're in school, and I feel a little bit guilty that I'm here during the week, but then on the weekend when they have free, I'm gone.
Mm.
But I still am trying to be involved. I coach the boys football team. I go pick them up from school every time I can, and we hang out a lot. And then over the summer they always come on tour with me.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they get out of school, and so for 2 straight months we'll be on the road as a family together, just cranking hotel rooms and 4, 5, 6, sometimes 12-hour drives, getting from gig to gig. So we have a lot of quality time in these spurts, and then I am gone. So it's really difficult. But
Yeah.
other people have it harder. I mean, I look at guys in the military and I go, well, they're gone for 6 months, 9 months at a pop. I'm
Yeah.
gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'm back.
Yeah, I guess I guess it's all about perspective and everything's relative, right?
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully they're enjoying it. Hopefully they don't grow up resenting me. Like dad's never there. Oh, funny guy, huh? They
Yeah.
they grow up hating comedy. They're just like, I prefer sadness. Laughter took my dad away.
Well, I think the fact that you're coaching and doing things like that, I know that's something that my corporate job was very demanding, but I set aside that time. I was going to do some things like that, and nothing else was going to get in the
And you had
way.
twins.
Yeah.
Holy buckets.
Yeah. So I have a son and a daughter. So I coached my son, and then I did security for my daughter in her cheerleading competitions. Toughest job ever. Some of those
Security and a
moms were
cheerleading.
insane.
You're beating away dance moms. Knock it off, Shirley.
Oh my God. It was the most dangerous job I think I've ever had. But that aside, I just wanted to be involved whenever I could. So I commend you, for doing the same, Nick. So you talked about, the summertime and taking the family on tour, which is great. So here we are. We're into April at this point. So what does the rest of the spring and summer and 2025 look for you? What's in the works?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm working on the new hour, and it's been about 15 months since I filmed. So things are progressing. I do have a nice 30 to 40 minutes that are
Nice.
coming together, and then the additional 20 on any given night. I'm switching out new jokes, trying this, trying that. So it's a fun time. When you're developing new stuff, there is it's not scary anymore, but the first time I recorded and then felt like I needed to get all new stuff, it was scary because you go through a period where nothing's working.
Mm.
Nothing's work. You go, oh man, I got 15 minutes and it's all terrible. You just go there, but then all of a sudden you break through, you keep pushing, you break through, and you find what makes those things funny. You're seeing the eyeballs light up, but there's no laughter. But then all of a sudden you start to get some laughter, and then one day one hits, and then this one follows that. And oh, this kind of goes with this, and right at this moment, it's sort of about doing a puzzle. You've got a bunch of different things that don't really fit together, but oh wait, no, this one kind of could tail into this one, and you're kind of trying to figure out how to piece it together. So it becomes exciting. It goes from devastatingly unfunny, where you're like, I'll never be funny again. I've written all the funny things I'm ever gonna say, and that's just over. I'm an empty vessel. Just take me now. To oh no, okay, there's this. You still got it, Hoff, a little bit, and you kind of all right, and then all of a sudden it gets exciting because now this is hitting really well with this, and oh wow, this thing is working really well as a closer, and now this feels like a set. So that's what I'm going through right now, and putting together dates for the summer. So the summer's always kind of funny because I got my family with me. It's not, I'm no longer flying. In the winter, spring, and fall, I'm always flying to gigs to get there. But then in the summer, routing becomes way more important because you're like,
Mm.
well, I can't just all of a sudden go from Washington D.C. to Salt Lake City. I got to like hit Salt Lake City, and then maybe in 3 weeks from then I can do D.C. So it's that delicate balance of trying to book things in the right way and try not to backtrack because that always feels worthless when you're like, man, now I gotta go 3 hours back the other way. There used to be a booker. What was his name? It was Tribble. They called him Tribble runs. You ever hear about a Tribble run?
No.
So in the 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s, there was this guy, David Tribble, who I think he was out of Oregon, maybe, but he booked everything through Montana, Oregon, Washington, up in that area.
Okay.
And sometimes you'd like do this dive bar in Bozeman, Montana, and have to drive 800 miles to get to somewhere in Oregon. And it's, February 3rd and there's a
Oh,
blizzard, and you go, holy smokes. So it, there were those days. You try to not relive those days where you were killing
sure.
yourself to get to certain places. But as a result, you see places that maybe you would not ordinarily have gone to. Like my family now, for 2 consecutive years, have gone to this place called the Blue Hole in New Mexico. Because
Huh.
on as we start in Los Angeles and we make our way east, and I do shows, there's this tiny little town in New Mexico that has this watering hole that's, I don't know, maybe 50 yards wide, and it's a circle. And there's all these cliffs on the side, and you can dive in. The water's butt cold. It's like 63 degrees or something. It shocks you when you get in. But we randomly happened upon it a couple of years ago, and it was 105 degrees. So you're in this cold water, but you
Oh,
get out and you're immediately warm. And
yeah.
we had we weren't even planning on going to it, and then all of a sudden we spent like 3 or 4 hours there. So then last year my kids were like, "Can we go back to the Blue Hole, Dad?" I was like, "Heck yeah, we can."
Yeah.
So we made a point to stop there. So you discover these little things, and so it's an adventure as a family, and I love it, and it helps develop material.
Oh yeah. I was just thinking as you're saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, that's got to be great for that too. But it's just the time and experiences together. And the other thing, when you're doing stuff like that, you're not on your phone. You're experiencing life
Yeah,
and adventures and things like that, which is pretty cool.
absolutely. And my kids have already been to, I think, 38 states, so they've seen a lot of the country. They've been all over. So I think that's a good experience for them as well. And we're not just kind of sitting around watching TV all
Yeah.
summer.
No, that's phenomenal, Nick. Absolutely phenomenal. So I just have one last question for you, and that
Hmm.
is, I asked about memories and things like that, kind of looking back. Just slightly different twist on this one.
Okay.
Looking back at all you've done and all you've been through, what are you most proud of?
Hmm. You know, I'm just proud I've been able to do it. I'm proud that I had this goal, and very few people are able to make a career of it.
Hmm.
A lot of people are funny, a lot of people try it, but very few and some people don't, get into it and then they say, "Oh, this is not. I don't want this for my career."
Hmm.
And so they take themselves out of it, but I'm just proud that I've been able to, you know, get into something where there was kind of no playbook for it. If you want to be a banker, you kind of know, okay, well, I go here and I get a job at a bank, and I work my way up, and I get to the place where I want to be. But there's so many different avenues and ways to do comedy, and I just, there were a lot of ways I could have failed, and I didn't. And I'm proud of that. I'm not an alcoholic. That's good. That I lost lost a few friends that way. Not lost, but they went through it, and you go, well, thank God I didn't go through that. And so yeah, I'm just proud I've been able to do it, and I'm proud that things keep getting funnier. I think I don't think I've peaked yet, so that's the hope. I mean, who knows?
Still
Maybe
room to
America,
grow.
the final season is
Still
the
room to
peak,
grow
but
and places to go.
yeah, I was really proud of my first special out on YouTube, which is called Front to Back, and then I feel even better about my last one. So I'm excited for the future, and so I'm excited to keep going. I'm proud that I'm still in it.
Well, there you go. And I think that's a great way to look at it and a great perspective, Nick. And I'm glad that you're still in it. And I'm glad that there's going to be some new stuff coming. So I
Heck
want
yeah.
to thank you again for taking the time to join me here tonight and sharing your story. It's been great to hear. I wish you all the best with the new special, with the upcoming tour, and most of all, the time you're going to have with your family in the summer. Nothing but the best. And I look
Thank you
forward
very
to it
much.
again sometime.
Absolutely. I look forward to meeting you when I'm out east sometime.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be great. Zoom is great, but meeting in person and talking in person is a whole nother world and a much better world. So looking forward to that too. And folks,
Heck yeah.
thank you for watching. Couldn't do it without you. We'll see you next time.
I don't like driving laws because it denotes that we're all the same level of driver, which we know is not the fact, right? We got good drivers, we have bad drivers, and then we just have flat out morons. This is my favorite idiot, the guy that insists on backing into his parking space every time. He pulls past the parking space, you're like, you missed. He's like, no, 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 no. No, no. I'm gonna back it in. Why are you backing in? Well, we're gonna save a ton of time on the way out. I'm not robbing the bank. What are you doing?
This week's episode has been brought to you by Doherty & Company Insurance Services for all your business and personal insurance needs. Our friends at Tennis Addiction in Exton, PA. And the Malin Agency, where exceeding expectations is how they do business.